Hello, everybody. Morning. I'd like to welcome you all on behalf of Dublinked and our project partners from the 4 Dublin local authorities in the Dublin region and Maynooth University. My name is Pauline Riordan and I'm the manager of Dublinked, so I'm part of a small team of people that are working up to open up access to public information across the Dublin region. So I guess for some of you who may not be familiar with Dublinked and what we do, we're an open data portal. So what that is we gather a pool of information relating to the Dublin region and we post it up online on the Dublinked website for others to freely reuse. So the aim is that when public data is opened up, that it can be reused for new products, new services, to make the city more efficient and ultimately to improve the lives of citizens. So in addition to being an open data portal, we're also an innovation network. So we hold events to try and stimulate a data-driven ecosystem, and that's what today is all about. So a few words of housekeeping then before we get going. I'd ask you all maybe to turn your mobile phones to silent, please. Bathrooms are just outside. There are trained fire marshals in the Chartered Accountants, so in the event of emergency, stay in your seats, it will all be taken care of. As you can see here, the Wi-Fi login and the password both are data. If you go on to Chartered Accountants, it's actually Chartered Accountants Guest. I think it turns up as the middle option that you want to pick. And I should say as well, I've had reports, people have said that there isn't a very good phone signal down here. So if you do want to keep in contact with people, perhaps better that you use the Wi-Fi and Twitter or other social media challenges. Also, this event is being streamed live. So that's just something to be aware of if you're having any conversations in or around the podium, just to be aware that your conversation may be picked up. So, okay. I'll give you a little look here. You should each have your schedule. That's what it looks like there. We've got a great range of speakers here for you today. I advise you to have a little look over it now. We have extra copies if anyone doesn't have it, because we have twin tracks. So have a little look over it and consider what sessions you might like to go to. We have 2 rooms today, but they're all opened into one now. So after coffee, we're going to break up and we'll have the gold room, which is this side, and the red room, which is that side. I'll give you a little overview of that agenda here now. So at the moment, we're just going to have welcome addresses from each of our project partners. I'll be giving a little presentation about Dublinked, what we've done to date and where we want to go, and then I'll welcome our keynote speaker, Julian Tate, from Open Data Manchester and the Greater Manchester Data Portal, after which we'll break for coffee, and then you can decide which session that you want to go to. I guess I'd like to thank all the speakers in advance, actually, and particularly those speakers who come from the UK, like Julian, considering the day that's in it with the closely fought general election. We hope you get back in time to cast your vote. And also other speakers from the UK, John Lynch from Future Cities Catapult and Philip Lang from the Open Data Institute. We really appreciate you travelling to be here. Kieran Gilston, who's our keynote speaker in the afternoon. Kieran travels back and forth from the US, so we're delighted to have him here today as well. Okay, so just to give you a little idea, we've a very diverse range of speakers, and we've tried to, I guess, represent that in these sessions. So you can choose after coffee between an open and shut case. That's kind of intended to be quite a wide-ranging conversation about the good, the bad and the ugly of open data, opportunities, pitfalls, or Open Data Nation, giving you an idea of what's going on in the open data scene in Ireland. It's a really growing scene. Delighted to see the range of people here today. There's a huge interest in open data, but we're looking not just at open data, we're looking at big data, data analytics, crowdsourced data. Okay, so we'd also like to thank Insight during lunch, the Insight Centre for Data Analytics. They're going to have a stand, so if you have any burning data questions, whether they're from just the basics, the top 10 things to do with open data, or if you have more technical questions, they have a lot of expertise in linked data. So they'll be here to answer your questions during lunchtime. And when we come back from lunch then, we're going to be all in this big room again together, and we're going to hear from our keynote, Kieran Gilston, who's scaling up his open data business in the States at the moment, in the US. And following that, we'll be hearing very quick lightning pitches from a number of different startups, tech startups, social enterprise startups, public policy startups, and they're going to give you an idea about how they use data to drive their business. After that, we'll have the last session in the evening. We'll have Open for Business, which will be in this room on this side, and that's really looking at how data can help unlock research and enterprise opportunities. The other session is Future Cities, where you'll have stories of public and social innovation using data. So thank you again to all the speakers. And thank you to those who agreed to act as chair as well. And thank you to all of yourselves in the audience for taking the time out to be here today. I hope you'll have an interesting day. I'm going to invite our project partners up to say a few words of welcome now. Just to give you an idea of how we'll manage it, we'll have speakers and we'll have time for each session for questions at the end. So I'm going to ask Owen Keegan up on behalf of the Dublin region. The 4 Dublin local authorities are leading the data release for Dublinked.
Thanks very much, Pauline. I was asked to say a few words of welcome on behalf of the chief executives of the 4 Dublin authorities. I think I understood they tried to get a politician, and it's an indication of the political commitment to open data that they failed, so you're kind of stuck with me. Anyway, so listen, you're all very welcome to today's Dublinked Doors, our Data Open Doors event. And I'm delighted to see the size of the audience and also the broad representation. We've tech entrepreneurs, SMEs, academic researchers, domain experts, and representatives of the 4 Dublin local authorities. We all have a shared interest in the application of big data, data analytics, and open data. Now, as Pauline has said, Dublinked is a partnership of the 4 Dublin local authorities and Maynooth University, with IBM providing technical support free of charge. Dublinked was launched in October 2011 as both an innovation network and an open data platform to provide open data for the Dublin City region, concentrating on local authority data. And today, Dublinked is a cross-boundary data repository with over 300 data sets, including real-time data covering transport planning, economic and environmental monitoring data. Dublinked has a number of overlapping objectives: to stimulate economic development, innovation in the Dublin region by making city region data available, to support the development and dissemination of key regional indicator data which can feed into the related Dublin dashboard, working across research and business sectors to unlock new research and collaboration opportunities for the city region, and to support the development of new solutions to regional challenges. Late last year, after 3 years of operation, a decision was taken to review Dublinked and to consider its future direction. Based on this review, the chief executives of the 4 local authorities agreed to commit significant additional resources, both human and financial, to the project and to bring it to the next level of development. One outcome has been the recent appointment of Pauline Riordan as the full-time manager of Dublinked and the imminent appointment of a full-time technical manager. This will bring the full-time staff complement to 3. And I think Pauline, in her address, will outline some of the plans she has for the development of Dublinked. And I have to say she has the full support of the 3 chief executives. Over the past year, the City Council has been working on developing its Smart City strategy. Key elements of the strategy include the application of technological innovation, using ICT to drive efficiencies and sustainable development, working in collaboration with businesses and academia, and improving citizen engagement. Fundamental to the strategy is the need to exploit the potential of big data and open data. The City Council has decided to concentrate on a number of key challenges in the areas of urban transport, extreme weather events, stroke flooding, environmental monitoring and energy efficiency, primarily public lighting. The strategy commits the City Council to new approaches to procurement, focused on our challenge areas, including issuing an open invitation to co-innovate with the City Council, issuing an open invitation for demonstrator projects, and procurement by challenge aimed at addressing identified key city challenges. The projects envisaged in many of these areas involve the collection in real time of enormous amounts of data and the real-time processing analysis of this data in order to generate real-time policy actions and outcomes, or in summary, data acquisition, data analytics, and finally, hopefully, policy action or action by the City Council. This is a relatively new area of activity for the City Council, which poses significant challenges as it is well outside our traditional comfort zone and skills base. It will create extensive opportunities for collaboration with outside agencies, and hence the importance to the City Council and indeed to the other Dublin local authorities of Dublinked and of events such as today's event. So finally, on behalf of the 4 Chief Executives, I'd like to thank our partner, Maynooth University, and especially Bernard Mahon, the Vice President for Research, IBM for their continued technical support for Dublinked, Dominic Byrne of Fingal County Council, Austin Baines of the Riordan County Council and Tommy Cavan of South Dublin County Council for their ongoing commitment to Dublinked since it was established, Pauline, Riordan, the manager of Dublinked for organising today's event, to thank all our distinguished speakers and, most importantly, to thank you, the audience, for giving up your time today. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Owen. The CEOs of the 4 Dublin local authorities have been very supportive of Dublinked, and it's great to have a permanent resource actually going forward for the project. I guess when we started up, we were very much bottom-up, and what's great to see now within the local authorities that there's top-down strategies being put in place, and also nationally that there's top-down strategies being put in place, which makes my job an awful lot easier, which is great. I'd like to introduce Bernard Mahon now from our other project partners in Maynooth University. We are really lucky to draw upon the great expertise that Maynooth University have in data, spatial data, data analytics, and I'll let Bernard say a few words.
Thanks so much. One of the key pieces, I suppose I'm going to say, is really, first of all, some thank yous, some reflections, and then one serious point, I think, that would probably be on the minds of all of the academic partners, both Maynooth University as really a driving force at the start of Dublinked, but also our colleagues across the university sectors. As Maynooth University's Vice President, it's a real pleasure to speak today. We're very proud, I think, of the expertise we were able to bring together and marshal to the work of Dublinked. I'm going to name check just some of those groups because a lot of the work was done, certainly in the beginning, in a very challenging environment that, of shrinking in the universities and shrinking resources and real HR issues that have continued to be a challenge, and yet we managed to get an awful lot done and an awful lot from quite a dedicated group of people. I'm really proud really of our groups in electronic engineering, in NERSA, in Aero, the Programmable City team, the National Centre for Geocomputation, who worked really hard with the 4 local authorities to provide the real-time feeds to the Dublin dashboard, to monitor city performance, involved in the 300 data sets published by Dublinked. And that really relied on a number of different skill sets, works in data analytics, data visualization, mathematics, the code in space and space in code people. And all that really came together in a way that I haven't seen very often in that collaboration with an outside agency. And I really pay tribute to you guys for the work and effort that you've put in. You're going to hear much more deeply, I think, around the opportunities and the challenges that we face. We know that the use of different data at different scales, new data analytics, open data, and advances in those understandings of how we use the geographies of and computer science to really serve the policy needs are really going to provide us with, first of all, new opportunities for enterprise, and innovation, new opportunities for public service innovation, but also it's exciting, I think, to see how we can use open information and open data to support and engage citizenry. And really, there's a radical democratic edge to the work that's happening here in the use of information, and Dublinked, I think, is really an exemplar for that, and we're very proud as an academic community to have been part of that. I would make one point, and I think it's an interesting time in Ireland as there is some talk at this moment of some easing on the purse strings. And I maybe give a comment that might be more relevant to not just our colleagues in Maynooth, and I see Katrina Crowe is speaking, I see our colleagues from Insight here. When we look at how we plan for our data infrastructure going forward, I think there is still an awful lot to be done and a significant fragmentation in where we are as a nation. We are at the beginning of the story around trusted repositories in Ireland and in our universities. We have the Dublinked, which we have a vision for. There's also DRI, which I think is a real challenges around sustainability that need to be addressed. Our percentage national spend on data management, what's that? I mean, really, does that even exist? We have lagged in creating the data infrastructures that we will need, not just as an academic community, but it does worry me that when I look at how we are acting as a sector, we are probably just a shade beyond relying on our desktops, whereas other nations, I think, have taken significant advances. And I've looked to the US cyber infrastructure as an example that we might emulate at a different scale as a way forward for us. And I think some of your speakers later on, particularly Tracy Lario, may be mentioning some of these things. So I suppose I wanted to make a thank you to the key people from the academic side, and then for the broader academic community, say that we're going to miss opportunities. We're going to miss research opportunities and innovation opportunities if we don't speak loudly for the need for trusted repositories, well-governed and strong data infrastructures, because they will be a key to new innovations, new opportunities. So finally, I suppose that's my plea for funding, which of course every academic has to get into every conference. I think we're very proud to have been part of Dublinked. It really is an exemplar, I think, of what can be done, and it's very exciting on how Dublinked will go forward with the partners that we have, and perhaps with new partners, in a way that's really going to serve the citizenry. I think we're pleased to have been the key in this phase, and we are committed to working for future research and collaboration to serve this partnership going forward. Governor Mahon.
Thanks very much, Bernard, for those very important points about the need to embed data infrastructures. And we're very grateful to Maynooth for the work that they do in helping us manage and curate the Dublinked website and the catalogue as well. I might mention a few, because we have a good few speakers here during the day from Maynooth. So we have Dr. Tracy Lario, who's going to talk a little bit more about those kind of data infrastructures. But we also have Professor Rob Kitchen from the Dublin Dashboard and Programmable Cities, which is doing amazing work in helping, I suppose, visualise and provide nice, easy-to-use interfaces where people can engage with the kind of data that we disseminate through Dublinked. But we also have Professor Brian Donlan from the Innovation Value Institute, who's going to talk a bit more this afternoon about research and innovation and the need to digitalise and unlock enterprise opportunities. Okay, so these are, again, just once more, these are the social media. We'd really encourage you to engage via social media. So our Twitter handle is @Dublinked. and hashtag data opens doors. You can also use hashtag #Dublinked or hashtag open data. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview about Dublinked, how it came about, some of the successes that we've had, but also a lot of the challenges that we faced and how we're working through them and where we'd like to go in the future. So for myself, I should start off probably saying that I'm actually not a technologist at all, just in case I get any really technical questions. I'm an urban planner by profession, but I started working in Dublinked from its inception in 2011, and I'm part of a team of people that are working across local authorities, putting in a lot of their own time to really, because they're committed to opening up public data. I work with Stephanie Keogh, who I really want to thank from Maynooth. She's been fantastic, and probably any of you that are speaking today, it's Stephanie who you were dealing with. But just to give you a little bit of context, this is the Dublin region here. So here are the 4 local authorities working together. In many ways, these 4 local authorities are competing, for new businesses, for rates, to attract inward investment. But at the same time, as city regions are becoming more complex to govern and becoming more urbanised, there is a realisation that we have to collaborate and not compete, because the Dublin region, it faces the same issues as other global cities. I guess, it's going to become increasingly urbanised, 1.27 population, which is 28% of the population of the country, and that's only going to increase. But it is the key economic driver for the nation as well. So when Dublinked came about, it was actually when the 4 local authorities, they came together to put together a joint economic action plan. So this is in 2009, the midst of the recession, and Dublinked very much from the start had an economic mandate. So we were all about promoting innovation and enterprise. Also, what was of increasing importance is the need to have the kind of data that you can monitor city region performance. So Dublinked has a role there in helping to develop and disseminate this kind of data. I put up a slide here from the Dublin dashboard, which was the Dublin Region Economic Monitor, which was only launched there very recently, and it's got some really useful scorecards. For the first time, there's a quarterly key regional economic indicators for the Dublin region, so you can see how Dublin is doing. So we had a very strong economic mandate, and it was coming out of the recession, but it wasn't all doom and gloom, because at the same time, I guess Dublin was becoming the place of choice for a lot of the global high-tech companies. I think we have 9 out of 10 of the biggest global IT companies in Dublin. So we have an amazing ecosystem there to tap into. But what was becoming apparent is that particularly when IBM Research came to establish their lab in Dublin, in Fingal, they were looking for access to city data. So as cities, we didn't want to just be providing data on a bilateral basis. We could be leaving ourselves open to issues of state aid if we were giving preferential treatment. So it became apparent very quickly that we needed to create a level playing field. We needed to afford equal access to our data to SMEs, to researchers, to entrepreneurs. And this is when Dublinked was set up pretty quickly in 2011 to become, I guess, that information hub for the region. So we've gathered a pool of data all about the Dublin region. We've over 300 data sets to date. I think we started off with 10 data sets from each local authority, and we've built it up. We have other data providers, 17 data providers to the region. So we have some government departments, some semi-states, like Ordnance Survey and Irish Water now give us data. And I guess the kind of data we have, a lot of it is operational. It was an eye-opener for me when I started working in Dublinked. I was essentially a data hunter. So it was an eye-opener for me to see the amount of data that is produced through the delivery of local services and also customer interactions. So a lot of that is the kind of data we have up on Dublinked. So transport data, planning data, environmental data. We also have a lot of spatial and mapping data too. Just for those of you, I guess I should give the definition of open data if you're not familiar with it. It's data that can be freely used, reused and redistributed. it has to be published in a machine-readable format, so not words, not PDF. And it can be freely reused. The most that you may have to do is provide attribution to credit where you came from. We've had some feedback that there are issues around licensing. Dublinked uses the public sector information licence, and there are some issues around attribution and reuse, but we're actually looking at that nationally at the moment. So Dublin's going to be looking at other licences that we might bring on board, Creative Commons and so on. Okay, so, well, we were demand-driven. We take data requests as well. So we always knew that, say, transport and parking would be very popular. The top of the list there is parking meters, and residential parking permits is number 3. So people are very, transport makes a huge difference to people's lives. Planning information, development plans are consistently up there in the top as well. Environmental data, recycling, and mapping. At the same time, you never know what's going to be of interest when you put it out there as well. So there's a fine line to be tread, I guess, between putting loads of data up on Dublinked, which is kind of, I suppose, the tack that we took. We tried to put as much out as we could. On the other hand, we don't want to become a data dump. So this is something we're looking at the moment. But at the same time, some of the data that we put up there we never actually expected to be popular. And I use this picture here, which doesn't look very promising, but this is actually a data set that we published, one of the first data sets we published in Dublinked, and we now get it from Irish Water. It's fats, oils and greases data set, and it doesn't sound promising at all, but it's a list of all the institutions that have a licence to discharge fats, oils and greases into the drainage system. So as the local authorities didn't have very robust property asset registers or building registers, people actually started using this data set as a proxy because it was the most up-to-date. It was a really robust data set of all institutions with canteens, so hospitals, schools, all that kind of stuff. So I guess in some cases we didn't even know the goal that we had until other people mined it. But what we're finding increasingly now is that people want, or developers in particular, they want access to real-time information or near to real-time information. We do have a small pool of dynamic data on Dublinked, and we do want to increase this. So we have public transport, traffic flows, car parking, Dublin bikes, planning information, customer interactions, and environmental monitoring up at the moment. And we're really looking at how to standardise them across the region. However, there are ever more sources of data that are coming on stream. The connected city is a reality, and it is a reality in Dublin. There is quite a dense sensor network in Dublin, so we're collecting real-time transport and environmental data. We're entering projects with Intel that we're actually going to put out more fixed sensors across the city. There's participatory citizen sensing that's happening more and more. There's some pictures here from Dunleary, Riordan County Council. They're doing a rollout of smart bins, so they can collect environmental data, traffic counts, footfall data, really interesting information. And all the new NTA, some of their premium cycle packs, they all have cycle counters. So there's a myriad of sources of data that are all coming on stream, and the Internet of Things is becoming a reality in Dublin. So I guess from the start we wanted to be more than a portal. So what was very important for us is that we were a platform for collaboration. You can see here this is our model. So the public authorities lead the data release. NUI help us with our standards and managing the network. And a thank you to IBM as well, who have provided us with the technology platform and help us maintain that. What we do have in addition, and Dublinked is quite unusual in this kind of model, is we have a small pool of research data. It's not strictly open data. It's only available to our members under a non-disclosure agreement. So our membership would typically be entrepreneurs, researchers, public bodies. Our members would have to agree just to use this data for research purposes only, so not for commercial reuse, or if they did want to use it for commercial reuse, they need to go back to the data providers to come up with an agreement. Now, we got some kickback on why we had this data that wasn't strictly open data, but the reason we did it is because this was data that wouldn't have seen the light of day otherwise, for whatever reason, generally because it's licensed. So this will be an example here of say traffic volumes that are based on road centre lines, which is licensed to the Ordnance Survey, or a 3D model of the city that's based on building polygons. Now, the Riordan survey actually has been a great friend to us. You know that we publish a number of the Riordan surveys, tiles for Dublin under our members, for access for our members as well. So I guess the whole idea behind this is to unlock new research opportunities. This is a picture from one of our, actually this is our last event I think we had before this. It was a data analytics event that we held with DIT Hothouse up in the fantastic new venue in Grange Gorman, St. Lawrence's Church. So it looks like everybody's coming to worship at the Church of Data. So that's what it's all about for us, and that's what today is about as well. It's trying to join the dots between the entrepreneurs, between the researchers, between the public sector, and we hold thematic events like this to try and build that innovation ecosystem around data, because data is pretty boring. It really needs, you know, it's just ones and zeros. It needs people to inspire, people to come up with ideas. And to encourage reuse, we post all those stories up on our website as well. So some of these stories are actually going to be presented this afternoon. It's all about encouraging new products, new services that can create value, might be economic value, social value, but ultimately it's about improving the city and the way it works. Okay, I guess I'm going to talk a little bit about our successes and what we've seen over the last 3 years, and I think we have to start with smart mobility. I mean, the real-time transport information in Dublin has been a real game changer, and I think even for myself, as I said, I don't have a background in technology, but my first interaction with city services online using my smartphone was actually a Dublin bus app, which really has transformed the way people move around. They don't have to wait at bus stops now for half an hour. You can time your day. You've got, citizens are informed. So this has been a real game changer. And Dublinked act as agent for the National Transport Authority, so to provide access to their real-time transport information. So that includes the Dublin bus. They have GPS on them, so we get location information every 20 to 30 seconds. That's what feeds into the real-time signs that you see on the streets. But when they opened up this data, we saw a whole slew of unofficial apps that had added functionality compared to what the official apps do. So there was a whole load of, for example, bus nearby, which tells you the nearby bus stop. We also have access to car parking information as well. So you see parking apps that can tell you the best place to park. And a number of journey planners as well. So you can plan your journey across the city via various modes of transport. There's Go Simply, an app that actually tells you, well, how long is it going to take you to get there? So these little niche apps that kind of give you all these extra functions and help improve, I think, the official city services. We also have, in addition to car parking and Dublin bus information, Dublin City Council have a traffic control centre where they control the traffic on behalf of the Dublin region. So they have very sophisticated systems there, and they've opened up some of that information as well. There are traffic sensors at 750 junctions across the city, and from that we derive journey times across the city from the 50 main routes. So all that information is available there in Dublinked, and that probably has been responsible for most of our reuse cases to date. Another area where Dublin has a very dense sensor network and a lot of expertise is in air and noise quality monitoring. We have a number of monitoring stations across the city that are measuring nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, particulate matter, etc. And we also have a number of sound monitoring stations as well, and we've done a lot of work to, I suppose, make this information available. That's a picture of the Dublin region noise map there, and you can see most of the noise is coming from the transport corridors. There's also been some citizen sensing projects that are happening around this. There's a Noise Watch mobile app where people can report incidents of noise pollution. And There's also the upcoming Intel project. So we will be looking at putting additional sensors at 500 gateways around the city, and there will be a lot of extra information available over the coming years in this area in environmental monitoring. So people can make informed choices about how they move about the city, what kind of routes they want to take. I suppose from the city point of view, from the public authority point of view, it's all about better city systems, you know, working with others, working with Intel, working with IBM to try and leverage their data analytics skills, build our own data analytics skills so that we can predict events and that this will feed into our emergency planning. Dublin has major problem with flooding. This is one of the areas that we're looking very seriously at. I think we've had a number of high tide events over the last couple of years. I suppose this is another project that's pulling together multiple massive data from various sources and trying to focus our resources on keeping the traffic moving. This is called the Insight Project, and it's based in Dublin City Council. The challenge for the public authorities, I guess, is how do we respond to all this? So we have all these nice front end, the data's coming in, so how do we match that front end to our back end systems to be able to respond in real time? And that is the real challenge, and that's where a lot of work is going to have to happen over the next couple of years. But what is good for us is to build up this kind of city intelligence. This is a slide here from IBM Research. It's actually an interactive video. You can see all the usage of you can see the CCTV camera locations, Dublin Bikes usage, the bars going up and down over the day. And very useful for us to see this. It kind of shows the heartbeat of the city. Again, the Dublin dashboard has a wealth of city intelligence that's built up, and this helps the city make better decisions, but it also makes the citizen make more informed decisions as well. I'd highly recommend you have a look at this site, in particular the Dublin overview there in the left-hand section. It shows you how Dublin is doing in real time across a number of different indicators, from environment to crime. We ran a visualisation competition last year, and we had a number of really great visualizations that really sort of focused on open government and customer reporting, what customers are reporting about, budgets and spending. We actually opened up our expenditure budget. I think this is Fingal's budget here from 2012, but delighted to see Public Policy, who are presenting here this afternoon. They've actually done a similar exercise for local authorities across the nation, and you can compare spends and where your money goes. Kieran Gilson from Building Eye is also going to present this afternoon, and this is a slide I got from Kieran which I think really illustrates the power of visualisation. Planning information was one of the first data set that we output. The 4 regional authorities use the same system, so it really shows, this map really shows he was putting the pressure on to try and make Ireland become the first country to output a national open data set. So he may give us an update on how we're doing. I know even in the Dublin region we still have some problems with our scripts, and we have some work to do ourselves to get that output in, but it would be great if we could get there. Okay, so I'm just very quickly going to kind of give you an idea of what we've achieved. I think when we started in 2011, we were fairly quick out of the blocks. There weren't very many regional data stores out there at the moment, so we had a first mover advantage, and we gathered quite a lot of international attention in our page views. But I think at this stage now we're looking at second mover advantage. There are a lot of other cities in the space. What can we learn from? We've been essentially, I suppose, in a pilot stage up to now, and we now need to grow and grow the platform and improve its functionality. One of the biggest challenges we faced really has been culture change. There's a real fear of your data being misinterpreted or misrepresentative from the public authorities' point of view. And in some cases, this may be justified. There's a very complex relationship between transparency and trust, and open doesn't always mean that people will trust you more. You might be opening yourself to embarrassment. And also, I think there's a conversation to be had about, say, the gotcha culture, in the media, and the real risk-averse culture in public authorities, that, the discourse needs to be had in this area. This is what I felt like a lot of the time when I was looking for data, like really like Mrs. Doyle. You would never underestimate the multiple layers of negotiation that are needed to get access to a data set. But what has really changed, I think, in the 3 years is that sometimes it feels now that you're pushing an open door. So it's great to see, say, the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform, that they're putting in place a national data strategy. And I think for us it's a chance as a public sector to coordinate our knowledge management and to really promote a culture of data sharing. Of course, there are real issues and there are real reasons why you might not open up data sets, particularly when data mining technology is so far ahead of the protection legislation. Public authorities in particular have a great responsibility to protect people's privacy. There's also a huge issue when more services are being outsourced, who retains those data rights. And I think we have to be very mindful of when we're procuring for new services that we include clauses, and this will become more of an issue going forward. We're working through these challenges. This is the vision for Dublin. This is what we want for Dublin. We want Dublin basically to position as a leader in developing urban solutions, that products will be prototyped in Dublin. And I think Dublinked has had some success with putting a structure in place around the data infrastructure. We do still have a lot of way to go to explore more innovative procurement and prototyping. It's great to see strategies coming on board in the local authorities to address this, because Dublin is a great size to become a prototype city. It's large enough to have complex systems, but it's still small enough that the big problems can become local and you get to talk to the person that you need to talk to. Okay, so last few slides is just where we want to go with Dublinked. At the moment, we're putting in place new project and governance structures. So a big part of our work over the next couple of months will be building up our technical resource, building up our training. We have a lot of work to do to build in quality and standards around our data. We're probably somewhere around the middle there for a lot of our data sets, but we have a lot of work to do there. And also another focus for us is going to be looking at how we systemise and standard these data sets regionally, so really trying to synchronise our output across the region. Also talking to other regional stakeholders to build up a regional remit, to really that we focus on what are the regional challenges, and once we have identified those needs, to be more proactive. So we're going to have a call out for a competition for new apps, products and services in October 2015. So we're going to time that to coincide with the Startup Gathering Festival, and we hope that this will be supported by high quality data and also access to urban infrastructure as well, because we're really seeing that crossover now, that it's not just technologists and app developers, but you're getting makers and product designers involved as well, and we're really keen to support that. We have new collaborations. We're in a project with Insight Galway, the Insight Centre for Data Analytics. So this is an EU project which is intended to enhance citizen engagement around open data, and it's also a way for us to explore open source technologies. So we're going to be looking at CCAN and various other open source tools to really encourage that engagement. We started drawing out, we've been meeting with stakeholders to try and draw out, what are these kind of needs that citizens have, and our initial workshops are kind of pointing to, it's all the richness of local information that people actually want, their local services. And also they want some social functions. They want a platform whereby they can organise events, and actually organise events so that they can meet face-to-face, so it's not all online. So I'm going to finish up with this. This is our roadmap. This is where we want to go. So at the moment we're building, we're engaging, and we're going to keep an eye on our website for details of our challenge that we'll launch in October. And hopefully over the next year we'll see a lot more improvements in the platform and also the engagement with users.